What's up everybody, Sam here with another Nomad Survival video, and today we're going to be talking about why being the Dark Lord and summoning thousands of skeletons might make the Necromancer one of the best classes in the game. The Necromancer is one of the, higher tier classes that you can unlock here. You have to slay 1,000 zombies, which you will do on the second map. So it's a pretty straightforward, not very difficult. You could do it in like 1 or 2 games, honestly. And so it's a really nice class to unlock. I highly recommend doing it as soon as you possibly can. The Necromancer is one of the higher tier ones, like I said earlier, so the SP cost for its ability is much higher than the other ones at 700, and its ability is called Undying Army. So you'll be summoning skeletons, and they survive for about 60 seconds. Duration modifiers don't increase this time. For melee summons, projectile speed makes them move faster. So if you want your guys to move fast as heck, you get projectile speed. And it also impacts your other 2 characters, because at level 20 and level 40, you actually unlock the ability to summon skeleton archers and skeleton mages. Granted, it is at a significantly lower rate than the normal skeletons, but you actually really like the melee skeletons, I promise. In regards to heritages, very strong with statue. This is a great farming build. Merchant, also again, maybe not the best because you are looking for those passives to support your skeleton army, but the Necromancer is such a strong class anyways. Merchant, totally viable. Summons, I actually like doing summons just to fit the theme of being a summoner Necromancer, So I do actually recommend just for the lore, but I do think the summoner, as always, you really only want to play it if you're having issues with projectiles. The Voidwalker I do like for this class because it gives you that little wiggle room, because in the beginning casting is very difficult because it's such a high SP cost. So you're gonna have situations where, unless you pick up something like Colorless Glyph early, things might be damaging you occasionally. So Voidwalker, not a bad choice. Poxbringer and Berserker, I don't really think they fit the playstyle for this character. You're gonna be dealing a lot of damage anyways with your summons, so I don't really think that either of them are really needed, especially because you don't have a built-in HP regen. So Berserker, not the best choice. Poxbringer, since all of your summons are doing the damage, I don't really think it's worthwhile. Nomad, I think, is actually the best choice for this class because you want to make sure you get all of those passes for your skeletons. So as you can see here, the cast time significantly slower than most of the other characters that we've been playing, which not the biggest deal in the world. The only thing I would recommend is that as soon as possible, get Spectral Sword. This is gonna double your casting, obviously. And then another thing I would recommend is trying to find Colorless Glyph ASAP. And that's so you just have wiggle room for this early. So look, I have Colorless Glyph. Now I don't have to worry about anything because Colorless Glyph is more than enough to get you through the first like 5 minutes probably. Nothing's able to actually get through 1 tick of damage from that, so I highly recommend it. Then you can follow this up with things like SP regen. You want to get SP regen maxed out as quickly as possible. Miniaturize is also very strong for this class. I always recommend getting Ascension to level 2 because that'll give you some additional SP regen. Only level 2, you don't have to go past that, but it's actually really good idea to get Ascension up because Ascension is a very easy place to get extra projectile speed so that your characters move a little bit faster. Damage, alright here, but as you can see, once you get, the build going a little bit, the Necromancer is a very strong build. If you don't have the Raccoon leveled up so that you have the Magnetize, I highly recommend going Immaterial Cloak. Get that to level 5. It's going to be much simpler for you to get all of these crystals because level 5 Immaterial Cloak, it magnetizes items towards you. It's a little bit easier than getting this Psychokinesis for item pickup range because sometimes things are going to die significantly farther away than you think, so you might just be missing out a little bit on EXP. For the most part, it's not that bad because with the addition of EXP stacking, so basically experience stacks on top of each other if you don't pick it up, so they can eventually turn into yellow EXP nodes. They generally move closer and closer to you, but sometimes you just miss out on stuff, and you want to make sure you have something like a Material Cloak so that you bring it towards you. One of the nice things is skill size does impact this, so it's highly recommended that you get skill size because one of the nice things about the melees is that they actually have insane knockback. So the knockback is huge. It really helps you out, keeps enemies away from you. And if you couldn't tell, if there's no enemies next to you, they actually stack on top of you. And one, I think it's really funny, but two, you won't really know how many things you have on top of you until they all run out towards something. But like I said, once you get the build going, you are pretty much good to go. The only like main actual requirements that I would say to make this build run the best, just make sure that you get your SP regen maxed out and make sure that you get projectile speed maxed out, and then fill that in with a maxed out spectral sword. If you get a third spectral sword, you're gonna have the biggest army in the world. At level 10, you get an additional spectral sword, and having 3 things casting at the same time is absolutely insane, because there's no limit on how many summons you can have out. There's only a limit on how long they last. So no matter what, they're only lasting for 60 seconds. So having 3 casting versus just 1 or 2 is always going to be more. You know, there's no like, oh, you can only have 40 summons. It's not like that. Here are the archer skeletons and the mage skeletons. The mages are nice. Weapon skill size does impact how big that orb is, so recommend it, definitely. But yeah, the Necromancer is really just a character built around getting passives. So the only active that I would recommend is going to be Spectral Sword, Colorless Glyph for the beginning, and Ascension. Get all those to max level, except for Colorless Glyph, obviously. And then other than that, just go whatever passives you want. Projectile speed, huge. SP regen, huge. But you can fill in crit, you can fill in max weapon size, whatever you are feeling at the time. And yeah, you'll pretty much just win the game. It's kind of insane. You know, the bosses, the boss damage is absolutely absurd. You basically just might have to like move away a little bit when the boss comes, but very, very briefly. It's not really that big of a deal. So this is a class that I recommend to everyone, regardless of if you're farming souls, if you're farming coins, even the gemstone modifiers. Since it doesn't have any type of HP regen, this Necromancer isn't actually that strong in the beginning. And most of the really high modifier runs, you need to have a character that has some cheese for the early levels, because you really have to get to like level like 10 to 15 with this class for it to come online. Whereas the other classes, they could basically squeeze out like 30 to 40 levels without too much help from anything else. So in regards to modifier runs, I don't recommend the Necromancer, but for anything else, this is one of the most enjoyable classes in the game. As always, guys, really appreciate the support, and I will see you on the next one.